Wow. Wow. I'm so excited. Miss Kamala Harris. For some reason, I always go to Cam Cam. I want to call her Cam Cam or Cammy. And it's odd because when I think of President-elect Trump, I think Sir, Mr. President, Mr. Trump. There's an there's an air of honor that he commands, something that cannot be demanded. You know, men have a tendency to do that sometimes and demand a certain type of respect when they're really just bullying. I'm talking the type of respect like that Andrew Tate talks about. And I think he's absolutely right. You know, if you have a good man, you have a good person. He is reliable. He provides. He does what he says he's going to do. Owns mistakes that are made, redoes it, has new thoughts, new ideas. Those type of men, they have their expectations, and it automatically commands, a woman will naturally, organically respond to that type of masculinity. I'm not talking bullying or DB kind of stuff, but when I think of Trump, that's my point. I wouldn't call him Donnie. There is something about Kamala, and I'm not trying to be deliberately disrespectful, that makes me just want to go Cammy or Cam Cam. Perhaps it's because of the arena that she's in. She doesn't belong in. I said in a previous video, I think she might be a blast to hang around with. Very well, I mean, she's educated. She worked as a DA in California. So let me get to the epiphany that she had. This was really awesome. I absolutely agree with her 200%. She apparently has discovered or voiced what is very, very broken in our jail system. This is what happens when you get arrested if you don't have money. Chances are good if you're upper middle class or you have money. There's some charges, nonviolent crimes, you probably won't even get arrested for. It's happened with the illegal immigrants actually attacking cops in New York and stealing their phones and not even being charged. Not even being charged. If you or I were to do that, I don't know about y'all, but with my particular income, I would be immediately jailed, charged. If bail was offered, that depends on the mood, and it does. Regardless of the law, it depends on the mood of the DA and the judge and what they're willing to do. But I would be arrested, a bail would be posted. If I cannot make that bail, I sit in jail until a trial, whether I'm guilty or not. Now, you got to remember, you're just being charged. It's not proven that you've done anything wrong at this point. But yet, if you can't post bail, you sit in jail. Sometimes it's weeks, can often be months, and can be over a year in a county jail, not even a prison. Just waiting to go before the judge because you cannot post bail. And by the time you get in front of the judge, basically what they do is establish a trial date. And if you can't post bail, then you go back to jail and wait for that trial date. So you have, I'm going to guess, hundreds and thousands across the country, if not more, of middle-class people or people within a certain income bracket that are sitting in jail not for their charge. They are sitting there because they don't have the bail money. They would, regardless of the charge, they would be released if they can post bail. So she's absolutely right in that. They're not sitting there for the crime. It's not even established that one has been committed. They're sitting there because they don't have the money to post bail. So they have no choice. That's a broken system. So she had this genius idea that I'm so on board with, of reforming that when it is a non-violent crime. She didn't say how, because she doesn't know how, to address that so people are not sitting in jail based on the fact that they're poverty-stricken. And we're poverty-stricken thanks to your administration. And a lot of decisions that were made that trickled down to our gas prices, our grocery prices, buying a home off the table. Off the table. First of all, you have private investors that are buying up all these new subdivisions and then renting them out. That should be illegal somehow. I'm not going to claim like I know how all that works, but I know it's happening. We looked at several homes built by a wonderful builder, Smith Douglas, very popular, very big here in Georgia, all counties, but Cherokee County mostly. Nice little townhomes, they're not private homes, but little subdivisions. And I mean, crazily overpriced. And even when they come down on the prices, the interest was so high, it's just off the table for the average Joe. And then come to find out, most of them, it's not that they were sold out. They are sold out. They were bought up. I mean, dozens of them were bought up by private investors that are then renting them, charging an exorbitant rent that will cover what they paid out, and a nice juicy profit. And then they can choose to sell it at any time, do what they want. So you get the picture. The average Joe cannot afford to buy a home, to rent an apartment. My son, his fiance, 2 full-time workers. She's degreed. He's blue collar. They take in money. They cannot even afford to rent. These are hardworking kids. They have to rent a room in somebody else's home, like with another couple, and we're being forced back into communal living. Children are being forced to come back to live with their parents, if that's an acceptable thing, whatever your situation is, and it's ridiculous. So she has this brilliant idea. Well, she just mentioned it. She didn't say what she was going to do about it. She simply mentioned how wrong it is. And it is. When you're at a point, even if it looks pretty obvious, I mean, we know the system has not worked for years. I grew up with a passion and a love for the law. That was going to be my career. I did work in a law firm as an office manager for years and years. It expanded into another one. Had several employees. I loved the law. We had all different types. We had 4 or 5 attorneys. It was mostly debt collection, and then family law, criminal law, torts, you name it. I absolutely loved the system. I trusted it, and I believed in it until I don't think it's much different in Massachusetts. The system is still broken. I now live in Georgia. I've seen it firsthand. I have an ex-husband who was, I guess, rightfully behind bars. It was a long time coming, serving at least 5 years of a 20-year sentence. But that is something, the trial occurred relatively quickly. He was guilty. He did do it. And he's serving time for it. And it was a violent crime. So that's a whole different story. Let's leave that alone. We can't even begin to figure out how to deal with that appropriately, because it's mostly easier to get off of a violent crime or get bail posted somehow than it is for something simple. Somebody finds a little weed in your car. I'm just trying to think of petty little things. Shoplifting, whatever the case may be. You're locked up, and if you don't have the money, you are in jail because you don't have the money, period. And she recognized this and, said it really needs to change, and she noted the unfairness of it. Well, duh, she knows all about it because she did it to a lot of people. She had a lot of people sitting there in jail on petty, small, nonviolent crimes, a little bit of weed, as she laughed about toking it herself. And now, all of a sudden, she has this epiphany that that's unfair and it's wrong. She did not lay out a plan of how to change it. Trump jumped on reform the minute he went into office. You heard them speak at his speeches, and I believe the convention last year, that woman, Mary, especially for the Black community. She had been sitting in jail for like 8 or 9 years of a 15-year sentence. Don't quote me on the exact specific details. This is just the gist of the story. And it was actually Kim Kardashian and Kanye West that went to him trying to reform this with an emphasis on black people that was sitting there that were unfairly given more time. That's a given. You know, I'm not buying into this. Sorry about the racism stuff, you guys. It's been watered down, misused, and abused that it backfired on y'all. No matter who's feeling it, black, white, Indian, it really doesn't matter. It's been so abused, and everyone's been so accused of it, and so obsessed with this DEI, where you get stuff because of your race. Nothing's based on merit. Now, perhaps you do have the merit and you do have the ability. That's great. But we flip the system upside down to work against everybody, especially the black community. Perfectly capable people of all races, of passing the SATs, getting into college, pursuing a career. And then there's some that aren't, and they get in anyway. And these are going to be the future surgeons, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. If you can get as far as being a surgeon, you probably get a little on the ball. But you get the point. You get the point. People with true merit and ability that have worked hard, just as hard as everybody else, have less of a chance now. So everybody started screaming about racism and white supremacy and all this sort of noise. And now at this point, it's lost its meaning. It's lost its sting. It's lost its bite. You're going to get called that no matter what you say, no matter what your views are. Speaking of views, thank you very much, Elon Musk, for Twitter. Apparently another problem that she has. She thinks everything should be fair across all platforms. They should have the same rules. We can't have one rule for Facebook and another rule for X. You're absolutely right again, Cam. Oh, I think somebody is entering home. That's unusual. It's an unusual time of day. And I know somebody hasn't been feeling too good. So I'm going to end this here and see what's going on, and we will get back to this.